They invited him to laugh at him. A rich woman, a crowded gala, a quiet driver in a borrowed suit. Everyone was waiting for the joke to land. What they didn't know was that the man they were mocking had once signed contracts that built fortunes and ended them, and that by the end of the night, no one would be laughing, especially her. The city knew her name before it knew her laugh. Crystal lights, silk dresses, quiet deals whispered over gold-rimmed glasses. This was her world. She ruled it easily, smiling as servants moved around her like shadows. When she joked, people leaned closer. When she teased, people laughed, even if it stung. So when she turned to her driver and invited him to the gala, it sounded generous. She said it lightly, as if it meant nothing. Her friends smiled, already amused. A poor man in a borrowed suit would be the night's entertainment. The driver nodded without protest. He kept his eyes low, hands steady on the wheel. No one noticed the pause in his breath. No one asked why he accepted so quickly. They thought he didn't understand the joke. They didn't see the weight behind his silence. And they never imagined what that invitation would cost him. That night would begin a chain of mistakes no one could stop. A man like him learned early how to disappear. Each morning he wore the same pressed shirt, the same calm expression, stepping into a world that never looked back at him. He opened doors, carried silence, and answered insults with polite nods. When they forgot his name, he pretended not to notice. To her, he was reliable, quiet, replaceable. She spoke freely around him, jokes sharp enough to bruise, assuming humility meant emptiness. He never corrected her. He never explained the pauses in his answers or the way he watched people instead of things. The invitation sat heavy in his pocket all day. He knew what it was meant to be, a spectacle, a reminder of distance. Still, he hesitated only once. That night, alone in his small room, he folded his only suit with care. He told himself it was just one evening. He told himself he could endure. The building rose like it belonged to a different city. Marble floors reflected chandeliers that cost more than his yearly pay. Laughter floated easily, careless and loud, as names with power greeted each other like family. She arrived wrapped in confidence, pearls catching the light. Her friends leaned in, eyes already searching for him. They joked softly at first, then louder, imagining his stiff walk, his borrowed suit, his discomfort under so many judging eyes. To them, humiliation was harmless fun. Servers moved past him without meeting his gaze. Conversations paused when he passed, then resumed, sharper than before. Every step reminded him he did not belong here. From across the room, she watched, smiling. She expected gratitude. She expected obedience. What she did not expect was the way he paused at the entrance, steadying himself, as if preparing for something far more dangerous than embarrassment, and everyone laughed already. He dressed slowly, not because he was nervous, but because memories move faster when the room is quiet. The suit was old, yet carefully kept, pressed along the same seams he had once worn to meetings that mattered. He checked the mirror only once, not to admire but to remember who he used to be. In a small drawer he left behind a watch he no longer wore. Too many questions came with it, too many faces from a life he chose to bury. He locked the door, carrying nothing except calm. On the drive, the city lights blurred past like unfinished chapters. Her laughter echoed in his head, mixed with voices he had not heard in years. He told himself this was temporary, just another role to play. But beneath the silence, something stirred, a decision long delayed. That invitation was not just an insult. It was a door, opening whether he was ready or not, yet still unavoidable. The room buzzed louder as she lifted her glass and smiled. She reminded everyone of her little surprise, laughing as if kindness explained it. Heads turned toward the entrance. Whispers spread. The joke was officially announced. Minutes passed, music played, no driver. She joked again, sharper this time, suggesting he might be lost or afraid. Laughter followed, but it sounded thinner. People checked the doors. Curiosity replaced amusement. She felt it first, a small irritation behind her smile. The delay was ruining the rhythm. This was supposed to be easy, predictable, a man knowing his place. Another minute passed. Servers shifted. Conversation slowed. Eyes stayed fixed on the entrance longer than polite. What was meant to be a moment stretched into something awkward. The silence began to speak. With every second he didn't appear, the joke lost control. Whatever was coming was no longer entirely hers, and for the first time that night, she wondered why her hands felt cold. The doors opened without drama, yet the room felt it instantly. He stepped inside with quiet certainty, posture straight, gaze steady, as if marble floors were familiar to him. The suit fit differently than expected, not borrowed, chosen. Conversations thinned, then stopped. A waiter froze mid-step. Someone near the bar whispered his name wrong, then went silent. He didn't rush. He didn't search for approval. He walked as though time belonged to him. She laughed first, too loudly, trying to pull the moment back into her control. But eyes no longer followed her. They followed him. A man near the stage stiffened, recognition flashing before he masked it with a nod. The driver returned it calmly. The room shifted. Smiles tightened. Jokes died unfinished. Whatever story they had prepared for him no longer fit the man standing there. She felt it in her chest before her mind caught up. This wasn't embarrassment arriving late. This was something else entirely, and it was already changing everything she thought she knew. No one noticed music playing because the room held its breath. Whispers moved faster than footsteps. Names were traded quietly, then corrected in nervous tones. A few guests leaned closer, eyes narrowing, trying to place him without daring to ask. Recognition spread unevenly, like a crack under polished glass. She noticed it too late. The way people no longer laughed on cue, the way questions formed but stayed unsaid. Her smile began to ache, frozen in place as she searched faces for reassurance and found none. Someone near the back stepped away from him with sudden respect. Another nodded, careful, almost deferential. The illusion she built, of power, of control, of harmless humor, started to bend. He said nothing. He didn't explain. He didn't defend himself. He simply stood there, allowing the room to do the work for him. Every second of his silence exposed someone else's arrogance. Her joke had turned inward, sharp and unforgiving. She felt smaller with every glance that passed her by and landed on him instead. This was no longer about a driver out of place. This was about her realizing she had misjudged the wrong man in front of everyone. It happened quietly, the way real power often reveals itself. A man with silver hair and a voice used to being obeyed stopped in front of him. The room leaned in. The man hesitated, then spoke his name clearly without laughter. Respect sat heavy in the word. Gasps followed. Someone dropped a glass. Whispers turned frantic as pieces connected too late. Years ago, that name had signed deals, built companies, ended careers. He hadn't disappeared. He had stepped away. She felt the floor tilt beneath her heels. Her mouth opened, then closed. The joke replayed in her mind, cruel and careless, now stripped of humor. Faces turned toward her, waiting, judging. The man asked why he was driving now. The driver answered simply. He chose a quieter life after loss taught him what money could not protect. Silence swallowed the room. No one laughed anymore. The cruelty stood exposed, naked and undeniable. Her power evaporated under the weight of her own words. She saw herself reflected in their eyes, small and ashamed. He offered no revenge. He didn't need to. The truth did everything. The room no longer knew what to do with itself. Conversations didn't return. Music felt inappropriate. People avoided each other's eyes as if noise might make things worse. He stood calmly, unchanged by the revelation, hands relaxed at his sides. When someone offered him a drink, he declined politely. When another tried to apologize, he nodded once, accepting without warmth or resentment. There was no victory in his expression, only distance. She remained where she was, glass untouched, shoulders tight. No one rushed to defend her. No one laughed anymore. The power she once wore so easily had slipped away, leaving her alone with memory. He met her eyes briefly, not with anger, not with triumph, just understanding, sharp and final. That look said everything he never spoke. Silence settled like dust after collapse. Nothing dramatic followed, no shouting, no exit, just the weight of realization pressing down, forcing everyone, especially her, to sit with what had been done and what could never be undone. He left the room the same way he entered it, quietly. No applause followed him and none was needed. Outside, the night air felt lighter, as if something long carried had finally been set down. He returned to the life he chose, not smaller for it but clearer. Inside, she stayed behind, surrounded by wealth that suddenly felt thin. The laughter she once controlled no longer protected her. Every polished surface reflected the moment she wished she could erase, and every silence repeated the lesson she never wanted. Worth had been mistaken for volume, power confused with noise, kindness delayed until it was too late. He did not walk away richer in money or praise. He walked away intact. That was enough. Some lessons arrive loudly. Others arrive through restraint, through a man who refuses to become what hurt him. Long after the doors closed and the music resumed, one truth lingered, unavoidable and heavy. Dignity cannot be given by status, and it cannot be taken by cruelty. It endures.